Hi guys, just a quick video on how I plant up my garden towers. It's only going to be a quick one, so I'm going to run through how I mix up my nutrient water and how I plant my seedlings into my net pots and put them in the tower. So let's go. So first, mixing up the nutrient water. For a typical tower to grow 20 lettuce, it takes about 40 litres of nutrient water. So I'll mix up 2 buckets at the same time. So the first thing is to fill up the buckets. Now we've filled our 2 buckets with about 20 litres of water roughly, not all the way to the top, but mostly. The first thing we're going to put in there is the hydrogen peroxide. So the hydrogen peroxide will add oxygen to the water as well as sterilise everything. So for 20 litres of water, you need 4 mils of hydrogen peroxide. So I just use this little pipette measurer, and it's easy to get in the bottle and it's easy to measure out. So nice and clean. The only thing with the hydrogen peroxide is I use gloves and glasses because it can burn you, especially when it's neat straight out of the bottle. So I'll put that in first. It's 3 mils. 1 mil. Three mils. And 1 mil. All right. Just rinse out the pet in there. Give that a stir. Okay, the next thing I add is GT Silica. This is meant to strengthen the cell membranes of the plant and help fight off against bugs and bits and pieces, and just help the growth of the plant. So it's meant to be 5 mils per litre, but I don't put that much in. I put about 65 mils in a 20 litre bucket. So the easiest way to do this is to tip it out into a smaller container first, which I've got here. And then I just use a syringe. Just get a nice big one so it's nice and easy. This is a 60 ml syringe. Stir. Now it does say to leave this for 15 minutes before adjusting the pH. Usually I don't have that long to hang around, so I've never had any issues before. By the time I've done the rest of what I need to do, it's usually long enough. So the next thing that I put in is the actual nutrients. I use a single part nutrient. It is a lot easier. I don't have to bother with mixing part A, part B. I've never had any issues with a single part nutrient, and the plants grow fine with it. So I'm just sticking to a single part nutrient. So in the 20 litres, I put 65 mils of the single part nutrient, and I'll do the same thing. Get a bucket because it's easier. You've got to make sure you shake the nutrient, because it does separate in solution. Okay, give that one a stir. Okay, then we can just tip these back into their containers, and then the last thing we need to do is check our pH levels of the water. Now you don't have to be that accurate with the measurements. I used to be spot on, and then I wasn't, and it didn't make any difference. So I even will rinse out, you know, the bit that's on there won't make any difference. Now sometimes I've got about 15 of these buckets. I will mix up all 15 buckets and just have it sitting there if I've got a couple of towels on the go at once. That way it's easy to do it when everything's out. Alright, the last thing I'm going to double check in the nutrient water is the EC. So the EC measures the right amount of nutrients that's in the water. EC stands for electric conductivity. So because it's a salt-based thing, the more higher the salt levels, the higher the conductivity, and I'm pretty sure that's how they work. So we're looking for sort of around 1.1, 1.2. Yeah, because they're going to be seedlings. When they're older plants, they can have a little bit higher, like between 1.5 and 1.8. But we sort of see what we got here. 1.3, 1.3, spot on. We'll check our pH. I've got a pH pen, which tells me the pH. Normally, on average, I've got to add about 12 drips of pH down into this. We'll see what it's at now. So that's at 8 and 7.9. So let's add my pH down. There's it gone, there. Same thing, I just use the pipette. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This one was slightly higher, so if I rinse the pipette out in this one, a little bit extra might help. So we're sort of aiming round about 5.5, 6, something like that. Again, I've never really noticed too much difference if it's 7, 6, 5. I'm sure there's people out there that will say it has to be a certain pH, but I've not really noticed any different. Alright, give that a stir. You always do the pH last, because when we're adding the other stuff, it'll change the pH. So, because this is last, it'll finally balance it off to the right amount. That's come down to 6.9. That one's 7, so we might need a little, 6.9 as well. So we might need just a little bit more. I'll put a couple more drips in there. You're better off doing a little bit at a time and test, and a little bit and a test, because once you go too far, then you've got to add pH up and it starts getting hard, and then you go too high and too low. 5 in there, 5 in there. Okay. Six and a half. 6.6. Might put one more little drip in there. Well, a couple of drips in each, and I think we're pretty good. Another 5 drips. Another 5 drips. Down to about 6. About 6.1. I'm happy with that. We'll leave it there. Okay, I'm running out of light, so I'm going to make this one quick. We've got some kale and some lettuce. Now, I actually bought these seedlings probably over a week ago, and I haven't had time to get them planted. So they've grown quite a bit since they've been sitting in my kitchen window. So what we're going to do is, instead of washing all the dirt off the actual root systems and then planting them in some perlite, I'm just going to plant them straight like this into the system. So I've got my net cups, which are just tiny little cups with slots in the side, and these fit into the spigots on the tower. So I'm literally going to just take the seedling out and drop it straight in there, push it down a little bit, and that seedling goes straight in the tower. So if there's any that have 2 or 3 of the actual seedlings coming up, you can snip them off and just pick the nicest looking one. It gets too crowded if you leave them in there, so it feels a bit wrong chopping some of the plants away, but it is better if you just leave 1 lettuce per spigot. So again, you just drop them in. Now they sit a little bit loose in there to start with, but once the root system kicks in and the roots actually will grow down inside the pipe, they become very solid and they won't be going anywhere. So simple as that, nice and quick. If you want to, you can get a little bit of perlite and just sprinkle it around the top. But I don't find the need to do that. So I just put it straight in and drop it in. Easy. All right, I'll do the rest of these. Okay, so this is the tower all planted up with our seedlings, our nutrient water. So all we've got to do is plug it in, set the timer, and let it run. We'll come back and check on it in a couple of days.